Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. Welcome to our Facebook Live show, Evolve with Paul and Heather. And first, I'm going to start off with a word from our sponsor, Evolve Global.
Hey, that's our company.
we pay big dollars for our own sponsorship. No, really, I wanted to share with you that I just launched my podcast, my Mastermind podcast this week with an interview with Glenn Frith, who is founder and owner of Aeronautical Charters, Inc. out of Lee County. And it was such an unbelievably compelling interview where he shared what happened with him over the week's time leading up to Hurricane Irma and evacuating all of his aircraft and getting owners and families out and everything that he went through up until the point where he got himself out and suffered from a massive heart attack and went into cardiac.
I know, it's an amazing story.
It is amazing.
It really is.
But I warn
and
you.
he lived to tell about it.
He lived to tell.
There's no spoiler alert. I mean, he did a podcast with us.
Yeah, like that's not a spoiler alert. He just did a podcast
with us. He
did
live through it.
But Glenn, it was a phenomenal interview, and I thank you so much. He was just raw. He absolutely just shared his whole experience. He died 4 times. He flatlined, and he came back, and he tells us everything he experienced. So if you haven't tuned in yet to Mastermind with Heather Christie, which is produced in partnership with Gulf Shore Business, get on it. Look it up on iTunes. If you don't know what a podcast is, get your kid to help you. Okay.
Yeah, if you have Android too, you go to Spreaker and download the Spreaker app, and that's where you can find it.
Or Google Play.
Yeah, or Google Play.
Or heatherchristie.com. We've pretty much put it everywhere so you can find it.
We're blanketing the internet.
We are totally blanketing. Hey, Amy, thanks for joining us.
Okay, so
let's get to it.
Yeah, sure.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
So if you want to get better results leading others, you got to stop giving advice without asking for permission. So
how is that possible? Because I am the most opinionated person.
You're giving advice all the time.
I just came off of a trip with my friends for a week, and I felt like I was giving so much advice, but apparently I've been doing it wrong all the time. So, Heather, enlighten me.
Well, so here's what's really interesting. I think, with the people who I work with, the ones who really, really struggle with this are those who are the most skilled. So when you're really good at something, this is where you want to watch out for giving too much advice. I
totally have a story about that you just brought it to mind.
Oh my gosh, so I don't even know what you're going to tell. Please share.
No, go on.
Go on.
Oh, so, we always, on these, we talk about one of our passions is playing tennis and going out on tennis courts. I think I'm a pretty good tennis player. And I would love to start teaching people. And any chance that I get, I love to be able to help somebody improve their game. But Heather was struggling, as she has many times on the tennis court with me, and I was really letting her know what she could do and how she could fix this problem. And
the problem is you started coaching me on the tennis courts when I was in the midst of a breakdown. So I'd had a terrible shot or a couple of 2 or 3 terrible shots in a row. So I was really frustrated. I'm sure I dropped some really unpleasant words. And that's when you jumped in with, because you need to slow it down or something like that.
Yeah, because I can fix stuff. I mean, I can't fix anything around the house, but I definitely can help fix people. Like most of us think we can, right?
On the tennis court.
And then on the tennis court. So I felt like I could fix the problem. But apparently, all of the instruction, all of the knowledge and experience that I have that I wanted to just pass it over to Heather to help her game was not being received the way I wanted it to be.
And why? What do you think it was not being received the way you wanted it to be?
Because you just didn't like me at that time.
No.
Because I didn't ask you?
Yes. Okay. So point of this. Okay. So this really is the point of this Facebook Live is that don't be too quick to jump in and then give advice to somebody without first asking permission. Now, this is something that we've taught all over the country as part of one of our programs that we do. We teach coaching leadership. And
what do we do?
What do you mean?
What do we do? I mean, we didn't tell everybody what we do in case somebody joins us and they don't know.
So if you don't know, I'm Heather Christie.
And I'm Paul Christie.
And what we do is we work with executives and entrepreneurs, and we help them in every aspect of growth, and particularly in the space of leadership. So we're almost always working with people who are leading other people. Now, our clients are really, really successful. They are already leaders. They've been through multiple leadership courses. But as I said before, when it comes to giving advice, that, the smarter you are, the more difficult it is to hold back and do it the right way. So let me just give you a perfect example. And by the way, as we're sharing this, I want you to know that this is something that we know you already know, but we're hoping to share it with you in a different way so that it can just be a great reminder. And we want you to be thinking about how you are when it comes to giving advice. Okay?
And we'd like to give you an exercise at the end of this for you to try on today.
Okay, well, you better write that down. Make sure you give the exercise. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you a real world example with a client that I was just working with last week. And this is an executive who, when I talked to this person, was in major, major breakdown mode. And it's a fairly new relationship. So I don't really know, is she at a 5 on the upset scale? Is she at a 7, or is she at a full 10?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually asked her that question after she started sharing some of her issues with me. She was pissed, like full on. And so, but I didn't know, like, where is she? So I finally just asked her, I said, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute highest and 1 being the lowest, how upset are you right now? And without hesitation, she says 10. And so I'm like, okay, I'm clear. I'm totally clear. This is a very delicate and sensitive situation. Now, because it's a newer relationship, we don't have as much of a foundation built as, where if I've been working with somebody for years, I would first of all know their level and know exactly how to work with them.
Yeah.
So brand new. So she says 10. And I said, okay, and how interested are you right now in working through this issue and taking your 10 down to something more like a 6? What's your level of interest? She said, none. So I was, okay, I'm totally clear. This issue that she just presented, which I so want to help her with, and I know I can help her with, like maybe even in moments I could get her through it. She said it's off limits. And so what did I do? I respected her wishes. And I moved on to something completely different and said, okay, well, how can I be most helpful for you? What would be most valuable for you to get during our time together today? So she switched gears, and so I broke her out of this momentum she had, which was being pissed off, right? And she switched gears, and she was thinking about,
it's like almost like a pattern interrupt,
right? It's a total pattern interrupt.
Yeah, totally.
So she went from crazy mad.
Because the expectation is for most people is that this person's going to just keep going down this path, and I'm going to keep getting more pissed. I'm going to keep getting more shut down.
Yeah. She expected I was going to try to fix her.
Right. And so the pattern interrupt was actually going the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, I asked her, did she want to work through it? She said no. And I didn't hesitate to move. I didn't tell her, oh, but we could fix this. Right. I didn't try to go there anyway. I just literally pattern interrupt, said, what would be most valuable today during our time together? And she thought about it for a minute, and she thought about all the different things that she had going on, and she had international travel coming up. She had all kinds of things. And so she went down a different path about, maybe what would be most helpful is kind of getting off the phone because I have to do this and this and this and this. And I wasn't ready to let her get off the phone yet. I really wanted to keep going. So wanted to find a way to bring her value because that would so much build the relationship. And so I asked her with all the things she listed, I said, so just to check, do you have a really clear plan on how you're going to get this done? Or can I be helpful in just talking through and thinking through that plan? And boom, now there's the opening. She said, okay, actually that would be helpful. I don't have it figured out.
So you took her off the cliff.
I took her away from the cliff.
Yeah.
And moved her into another direction. And what's amazing is her level 10 frustration at the beginning of the call, by the time we got off the call, was more around a 4, which to me is a huge win. But I got to say, what's really interesting, when I took her in that different path, I believe that she was surprised that I didn't just jump in and try to fix it because I knew I could fix it. And I truly believe that I went a long way in building that relationship with her in the respect and everything that's needed, the trust that's needed to be able to hopefully in the future be someone who she turns to and comes to and is not afraid to come to. Because do you know, I think about the last time you were really upset about something, did you want someone to give you advice? Did you want someone to fix you? Did you even want someone to coach you?
Nope.
And depending on who you are, like I know usually if you're in upset mode, the last thing he wants is coaching.
Yeah, I mean, here's another quick story. So we went to an event just recently, and I was having a really, really bad day. And I knew we had to go to the event. I had to get dressed, drive out to it, and the entire ride, Heather was trying to do a pattern interrupt, just doing anything to kind of help me through. And you were actually trying to fix the problem. And I was literally hanging off the cliff. I was in a really bad place. I don't know why. It just happens, you know?
So can I just tell you my favorite thing that I do with Paul when all else fails, he's driving, okay? So pretend like you're driving. So he's driving, pretend like you're pissed. Like you're in a bad space.
I can't even
so he can't even do it right now. So I just go like this.
And then I start
and he can't help it. No matter how mad he is, he can't help it. He starts cracking up. So I was doing one of those. I'm like, this always works. That it didn't work that time.
No.
He was in a bad space.
No, I was
okay, go on.
Yeah. And so we get there, and I'm like, listen, I cannot make. I can't go to the event. I'm not going to be in a good place. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to represent us well. It was a charity event, and I was like, I'm better off just driving home, and I'll come pick you up later. And it doesn't ever really happen. I mean, usually I can bust through that. But
I was so
mad I don't even remember.
No, I was trying to help him get out of this situation. And to be fair, it wasn't all about him in the moment. It was about me getting him out of this place so we could get to the event that we were meant to go to, so we could see our friends, our clients. And so I did have a little bit of self-interest in there. I did ask you, to be fair, I asked you if you were, I didn't even ask you if you were open for coaching, but I asked you if you were ready to move away from this like snit that you were in.
Yeah.
And he was just a no. And I didn't try to coach him, but I did try some other techniques to just see if I could break him out of it, see if I could make him laugh, do anything. And nothing worked. So I think one of the things that I got from that, and you actually shared this with me later, was that he just, in that moment, you wanted me to just say, I get it.
Yep.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like that's all he was looking for. And I was still trying to fix. And you know what? Maybe it would have been fixed if I stopped trying so hard to fix, because I recognized for whatever reason, he had no reason to be in a bad place. But for whatever reason he was, which is perfect if that's where he is. So what I needed to do was just grant you the fact that you were there and say, I got it. And then that would have been it. And then let him just see, what came up.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the point of this, I mean, if you truly want to have your advice, all of us have really great knowledge and expertise in areas that we're good at, even in relationships and everywhere else. And we have tons of great advice, but if you want to get it to land properly and you want people, because I think what happens is this incredible knowledge and experience and information that we can provide other people to help them through their challenges that they go through, they have to first accept that.
They've got to be open.
They've got to be open for it.
They've got to be open.
And I don't know why it is, but I'm 48 years old. And I'm still trying to give advice without asking. And I start, and I know I'm like, I know this is good advice, and should I ask them? And I don't ask because I'm afraid they'll say no. And then if they say no, they'll miss out on this great information. So sometimes I just pass over that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of people, right?
I even though I teach this stuff, I still catch myself at times doing the same thing where I see something so clearly, and I know the words that will help, or I know the strategy, I know the fix, and I have to constantly be aware enough to remind myself that just because someone has come to me doesn't necessarily mean that they're open for advice or for coaching. So here are a couple of tips. Here's what you can do.
And then we got to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up after the tips, but you've got some kind of assignment too. I told you to write that down. Okay, so the tips. When somebody comes to you, and let's just say they come to you and they're upset about something. So you've got someone who's fired up, like Paul was the other day. remember that just because they've come to you or they're in your space and they're upset does not mean that they're there for you to fix them. And like Amy said something really brilliant early on. She says, we don't want advice from our husbands, Paul. So just so you know. But so when someone comes to you and they're in that space, I know that we want to be helpful. It is human nature. We want to help. We want to solve. We want to fix. But, and this is even true for your children, by the way. They don't necessarily want you to just come in and give advice and clean it up and fix it for them. So one of the best questions you can possibly ask is, how can I best help you? Or who do you need me to be right now? I mean, actually getting to the place where you're asking them, do you need me to just be a great listener? Do you need me to ask you some questions so that you can find your answers within? Do you want me to just, do you want me to give you my advice? Because a lot of times people are coming to you because they want advice, but yet they're still not fully open until you ask that question. So would you be open for me to share my insights on this? Or would you be open for feedback? So just figuring out the right question to ask in the moment. And listen, even if you're in a place of leadership, if you are a manager or a director or VP, CEO, whatever, you're in that space where when people come to you, the expectation is always that you're there to help them. It's still a great idea to ask them if they're ready for help and what kind of help they need. And I promise you, if you start learning to just pause a little bit and ask that question, you're going to get a much better result. And then, of course, there's the whole opportunity to ask more questions and listen more fully so you really understand where that person is coming from. Then your advice is obviously going to be way better. And I do want to share one other quick story because this was powerful, and this just happened on Saturday.
Is it going to be short?
It'll be as long as it takes.
Okay, let's
on
go.
Saturday, I was at the Florida Speakers Association meeting, which was over the top awesome. And you weren't there. You were on your guys' weekend, which for you was over the top awesome too.
Where I was sharing all my opinions.
You were sharing your opinions
without permission.
Everybody, yeah. So I'm at the Florida Speakers Association meeting, and my colleague Mark Levitt came up to me during the break, and he said, "Hey, are you open?" Or he said, "I've been watching your videos lately," and he said, "Are you open for some constructive criticism?"
Bam.
Bam. And I was like, yes, please. And he's an expert, so I'm thrilled. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Now you can give him the crap sandwich, right?
Well, he gave me the crap sandwich. He started off by saying, oh, this is good, and this is good, and this is good. And then he said, but what you're doing, your positioning on the camera is off. You're too low in the screen. And when you're on film, you need to have your eye level at least midway, but if not higher. So notice
he has expertise in it. Yeah, look at now your face is way back there and higher, and mine is really close, scaring the hell out of everyone.
But listen, not only did he do it exactly the right way, he asked for permission, and I was wide open. So he didn't just come to me from left field and say, hey, by the way, your videos are great, but you're not in the right spot on the camera. No, he didn't do it that way. So thank you, Mark, for that. I actually got an adjustable chair so Paul could actually come down to my level.
Yeah,
right?
So to wrap this up, the exercise for you this week, and if you can take it on even when you stop watching this, or if you're watching the rebroadcast, try it out. Before asking or before giving your opinion, ask if someone's open for receiving your advice. And you will be surprised that most people will say yes, but the people that say no, the people that say yes will now be truly open to those golden nuggets of information and advice that you have. And the people who say no, they mean no. No means no.
So I just want to answer, there's a question that came in from Amy Novakovich. Hi, Amy. So she said, what if they aren't upset, but they just don't think they need advice, and they really do?
Listen, everybody needs advice. I'm kidding.
No, but that's actually a really great question, because how often as a leader do you see an opening and an opportunity for growth? And the answer is we should be looking for it. We should be finding it all the time. So every one of us, there are no perfect people in this world. All of us have strengths, and all of us have limitations. So what happens when you find someone's limitation, but they don't see it? It's a blind spot, which that happens all the time. So Amy, I think the best way to handle that one is to address the situation and begin to ask some really powerful questions. So let's just pretend that the situation had to do with the way they were communicating with a customer, and you weren't as excited about how they were communicating because you knew it could be a whole lot better, but they thought it was totally fine. Let's say that they were just sort of direct and abrupt and they weren't showing the love to the customer. So one of the things you could start by doing is just asking them for their experience. So, you know, how do you feel things are going in your relationships with the customer, the conversations that you're having? What sort of responses are you getting from the customer? Do you feel like the customers are warm and friendly? Are they developing that relationship with you the way they should be? So you start asking questions so that you could possibly get them to find an awareness. And if they recognize, oh, you know what? The customers really are not showing the level of excitement I want them to. So what do you think it is for you? What do you think you could do differently? And you actually just start asking them the question, because most of the time when we're doing something wrong, even if it's a blind spot for us, truly deep within, we know when we're screwing it up. You know what? I know I'm impatient and I don't always stop and take a breath and put a smile on my face and engage the way I should. They will know. So you can always start by asking them questions to see if you can pull from them what they think the issue is.
Awesome. Let's wrap this up.
You want to wrap it up?
Let's wrap it
We've got work to do. Do you guys have work to do? Let's go back to work.
Nice
Thanks for being part of my show today, because I didn't know what sort of shape you'd be in after a week on the beach.
You have just evolved with Heather and Paul.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, please share it, and please tune in next week on Mondays at 11:30 Eastern. Take care, y'all.
Peace out.